Hello and welcome to another chapter of It Hurts the Hope by Inquilitory on AO3. Chapter 4. Can't let my guard down. Can't let down my guard. Zelqua drifts up from the darkness of sleep, and at first he's unsure where he is. From when was his sleeping place this soft? There's so much room. He lets out a long sigh and buries his face deeper into the pillow, wings stretching out more. The tip of his wing brushes against the floor, and that's the second thing that's odd. The floor is soft, and it's not the freezing tile that Zelqua is used to. He cracks open an eye open to blearily squint at it. It is white, but it's not the glaring crisp shade it usually is. And inside it looks like a fluffy cream-colored carpet. Another simulation. Zelqua's mind mutters irritably. And something dark bubbles up. Hasn't he been put through enough? Hasn't he earned his void damned rest? He sighs again, practically deflating into the pillow. It's soft. Soft is good. He lazily opens his eyes to see if he should even attempt to get up. His eyes don't open. And that's when the memories come rushing back. Zelqua shoots up, a gasp ripping free as his wings spread around him for balance, and he nearly topples off the bed as he sees the room again. I'm out. I'm not there. This is real. His breath is ragged and stuttery as he tries to ground himself, digging his chewed-down nails into his palms. I'm okay. No, he's not okay, because he's a prisoner and they're trying to lure him into being complacent. They hate Watchers, and they hate him. They're going to kill him, or worse, give him back to them. And he'll never be free again! A panicked sob wobbles from his lips, and he immediately clamps down with his tongue between his teeth because they'll hear it. And they're gonna be so mad, and boy, he's so dead. He wraps his arm around his head, but it doesn't work because there's metal around his wrists. And that only makes him panic more because he's trapped and grounded, and he can't see! Whoa, hey there, little dude. Calm down, yeah? Deep breaths. The voice startles Zelqua, and his head whips up to see brown hair, a scarred face, and wide green eyes. He knows those eyes. They're the eyes that watched him when he was pulled under by the potion, belonging to the man who grabbed him and stopped his escape. And this only hurts more because he come back to finish the job. Zelqua flings his hands over his head and wraps his wings around himself, cowering and crumbling, his gasping breaths becoming louder by the second, because it's all he can do. He can't even plead for his life, and it won't make a difference because he's a bloody Watcher and they don't care. His breath hitches in his throat because Zelqua could swear that he just heard a meow. There's something soft brushing against the shield he's made out of his wings. It's furry, and it's moving. And Zelqua can feel its purrs, vibrating against his feathers. Purrs? Zelqua inches a wing back, lowering his hand so he can at least see what this new thing is. It's a cat. It's mottled white and gray, and has these ridiculously huge eyes and a long windy tail that flicks and twists. He glances up at Zelqua as he brings back his wing, and purrs happily as if to say, "It's about time." Before he can do anything, the cat pads forward and leaps into his lap. Zelka freezes for a moment, hands in the air, staring down at this fluffy creature that's intruded on his legs. The cat simply meows at him again, and then turns around and curls into a neat loaf. He can feel its purrs rumbling in its chest. Cautiously, Zelka lowers his hands and touches his fingers to the cat's ears. The purrs intensify, practically doubling in strength, and a whisper of calm rushes through his brain like a fresh breeze. Zelka drags his fingers gently through the cat's fur. It's like a redstone engine now, rumbling so hard he can feel as it vibrates. Something that might be a smile ghosts across his face as he brings his hands back up to the cat's head to repeat the motion. "You alright now?" someone asks. And if it weren't for the cat, Zelka would have leapt a mile into the air. But as he is, he can't startle the cat. So he settles for his wings puffing out and his head whipping up, the ghost of a smile disappearing into wide eyes and an open mouth. "Whoa, it's alright, just me." The man sitting on the other end of the bed holds up his hands in surrender, face carefully neutral. "Just good old Scar. No need to worry." Zelka's pretty sure he should worry. And he's about to hiss at the stranger, but the cat purrs again, and all of his attention is redirected back to it. "Her name is Jelly," Scar says conversationally, leaning back on his hands and giving Zelka a loose, easy smile. "She's a real treasure." Zelka doesn't really know what to say to that, so he simply nods and continues to pet Jelly. Scar chuckles, and Zelka glances back up at his visitor questioningly. "I figured you'd like her. She's got every player on this server wrapped around her paw." If he's looking for a reply, Zelka doesn't give it. But Scar doesn't seem to mind and keeps talking, telling Zelka about his base and his newest project, and about someone named Doc. Oh, and there's Mobo's name. It sounds like they're friends. Scar talks about an adventure they had, something about a redstone contraption and being able to fly. Zelka is surprised to discover that as time wears on that he doesn't really mind Scar's insistent prattling that much. The green-eyed man has a warm, bouncy voice that practically emanates excitement, and even if his story is simply about going to gather sand or buy concrete, he still manages to infuse it with humor and charisma. He has quite the silver tongue. Zelka makes note to watch out for it later, but right now he simply lets it spin its tails as he pets Jelly, and he doesn't even notice when his wings relax and fold behind him, no longer defensive. Scar's voice eventually trails off, and Zelka glances up to see him checking his watch. "Oh goodness me, look at the time!" Scar exclaims, stowing the timepiece away into his pocket. "I'm due for a meeting with my good friend B-Dubs." He glances over at Zelka and gives an apologetic grimace. "I'm afraid I must spear the way of the fair Jelly, my friend." Zelka frowns but hands the cat over without protest, knowing it's no use to argue. Maybe if he listens, Scar will bring her back. He watches as Scar bundles Jelly in one arm and reaches for his cane with the other, raising into his feet with a small wince. "I could use that against him if we fight," Zelka thinks, and immediately feels ashamed. And then confused. Why is he ashamed? They're still enemies, and any advantage he can push in the battle will do him in good. He ignores the fact that Scar called him my friend. They are not friends, and this is all a ploy to get him to lower his guard. Zelka keeps his eyes locked onto Scar as he crosses over the door, and doesn't return the easy smile that Scar gives him, a smile that lights up the man's whole face. I'll see you soon, Zelka, Scar sings, and then raises one of Jelly's paws and shakes it at the Watcher. Say bye, Jelly, he coos, and then pushes his voice to a higher pitch. Bye, Zelka! Zelka watches the Scar hover for a split second, maybe awaiting a reaction. He watches as Scar clears his throat and drops Jelly's paw. He watches as Scar nods in farewell and then departs through the door, which swings shut behind him. And when Scar's gone, Zelka stretches out a wing and starts to preen it. He has to be ready at all times, because he never knows when an opportunity for escape will present itself. He's ignoring the fact that Scar called him friend. No one else comes for the rest of the day other than a person named Zedaf, who leaves a bowl of soup. Zedaf doesn't stay for long, which is fine with Zelka. He's fine, and he doesn't want anyone to come talk to him. He prefers the quiet, it helps him concentrate and make a plan. He definitely doesn't want Mumbo with his cookies. He definitely doesn't want to hear Impulse's awkward hello at odds with the man's bulky structure. He definitely doesn't want a scarf of jelly. Zuma, Impulse, Mumbo, Stress, Scar, Zedaf. He recites, because he needs to know as much as he can about these hermits, and he might as well start with their names. B-Dubs and Doc, he adds as an afterthought, even though he has no idea who they are. Etho and Cleo, he completes, along with the knowledge that he should stay out of their way. He can almost feel the phantom air of an arrow whiz by him, and he shudders. Definitely stay out of their way. Xuma, Impulse, Mumbo, Stress, Scar, Zedaf, B-Dubs and Doc, Etho and Cleo. He recites the list like a prayer as he combs through his wings and tries to straighten out his rumpled robes. Exuma, Impulse, Mumbo, Stress, he whispers to himself as he drags a hand through his hair. Scar, Zedaf. He mouths silently as he checks his energy levels and is disappointed when they're still tragically low. B-Dubs and Doc. He chants as he settles down on the bed again, this time actually bothering to cover himself with the blanket. Etho and Cleo. He completes as he burrows into the blankets, wrapping them around himself and pretending they're a nest. Again. Exuma, Impulse. He yawns and feels his eyes flutter shut. Mumbo, 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 Mumbo. Zelka drops off into sleep, the names of the hermits still chasing through his head. So, what did you think? Scar piles food onto his plate before answering, and takes his time as he sits down in his chair, letting out a relieved sigh as the pressure has finally gone from his bad leg. Picking up a fork, Scar stabs it into the closest potato and lifts it to his mouth. He glances up and meets Mumbo's expectant eyes. He sighs and puts the fork back down. Cute little guy, if I'll be honest, he answers. And he is honest, because he saw the way the Watcher caressed Jelly's fur and immediately thought that he was the most precious thing he's ever seen. Scar's having a hard time aligning that thought with the stories he's heard about Watchers over the years. There's no way the short young man with honey brown hair who looked at Jelly with such wonder and just barely recovered from a panic attack could be capable of destroying worlds, right? Right. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Mumbo spears a piece of lettuce onto his fork and twirls it around mindlessly. I mean, he looks my age. How could someone my age know how to unravel code and travel in the void? Apparently he can, Scar replies and leans back in his chair with a sigh. Honestly, I just feel bad. Like, I know he's this all-powerful eldritch being, who could probably take us down in seconds, but you, you know what? He opens his eyes and looks at Mumbo again. I've never seen someone look so overjoyed to have a cat sit in their lap. You should have seen his face when he tried the cookie. Mumbo chuckles and puts a piece of lettuce into his mouth. Absolutely chuffed to bits. Scar picks up his fork and paled potato again, lifts it to his mouth, then puts it down. Hey, do you think Beat-Ups have any spare clothes he doesn't wear anymore? He asks suddenly, and Mumbo accidentally gets salad dressing on his mustache from surprise. That was very unexpected, he comments as he uses a napkin to get the dressing off, and Scar leans forward, excitedly gesturing with his hands. Haven't you noticed the state of Zelka's clothes? If they used to be robes, they certainly aren't now. I bet Beat-Up's things would fit him. They're around the same size. That's a splendid idea, Scar, Mumbo exclaims, immediately warming up to the proposition. But what about his wings? We can cut holes in the back, or ask someone to tailor them so Zell doesn't have to, Scar replies, practically leaping from his seat in excitement. Mumbo nods along, then pauses. Zell? He echoes, and Scar freezes for a moment, cheeks going pink. Oh, wow, I didn't even notice I did that, he mutters, glancing away awkwardly. It's just Zelqua. It's such a mouthful. And I've got nicknames for most people anyways. You don't have to explain yourself to me, Scar. Mumbo interrupts gently, mustache twitching in what's probably a smile. I think it's a cute nickname. Thanks. Scar falls silent for a moment, then immediately powers on like nothing happened. I'm going to message Beat-Ups and ask him about those clothes. He reaches for his communicator, but Mumbo's slender fingers pluck it up before he can. Scar? It's dark outside and we're having dinner, he tells his friend, setting the device aside. It can wait until tomorrow, yeah? Scar blinks and glances out the window and the darkness beyond, as if he hasn't realized the sun has set. He laughs and waves a hand as if warding off the awkwardness. Right as usual, my dear Mumbo. He chuckles and Mumbo joins in, then picks up his fork and points it at Scar's plate. I didn't spend all afternoon cooking that meal for you to get cold on your plate, he says, and they both return to their food. All thought of Zelqua and clothes pushed aside for now. Friday evenings are for rest and relaxation, and Scar and Mumbo have been upholding this tradition for what feels like years at this point. Zelqua can wait a night. Fridays are for Mumbo and Scar. The code swims and stumbles in front of Exuma's eyes, becoming less and less understandable by the second. He finally sighs and pushes away from the desk, covering his eyes with an annoyed groan. He's been trying to fix the tear that Zelqua left in the server's firewall for what feels like an eternity now, and he hasn't made any progress. The code just refuses to mend, like the way Zelqua cut it up and then cauterized the wound so it wouldn't sew back together. It's infuriating and impressive at the same time. Xuma isn't sure whether he wants to be annoyed or scared, because any being that can do that is one that should be feared. But Xuma uses his screen to pull up his private chats with Mumbo, Impulse, and Scar, and rereads them for the umpteenth time. They all say practically the same thing, that Zelqua is peaceful and wary, that he doesn't seem to trust them, but hasn't initiated the fight or tried to escape, that he's frightened of strangers, but docile enough that he'll accept food and sometimes talk. It's confusing, and he hates it. He can't match up these reports with what he knows about Watchers. With the image in his head of bloodthirsty beings with many eyes and wings, whose voices sound like the void and whose hands are stained with code. Mumbo and Scar seem to think Zelka is harmless, but Xuma knows that they're wrong, because his nightmares are still haunted by purple eyes and great wings, the sound of their voices chasing him into unconsciousness and taunting his every waking step. No matter. We will always be able to see you, Voidwalker. No matter how far you run, you cannot escape our eyes. Exuma knows that Watchers are evil. He doesn't want to even think about the possibility that this one might be different, because it means they're not just mindless monsters, that they had a reason for everything they did. The beep of an incoming message tears Exuma from his thoughts. He flicks back through his screen with jittery fingers. Maybe it's a message from Zedov, who's currently on watcher duty. Maybe Zelka somehow broke through the crafts and escaped. Maybe someone's hurt. Maybe more of them have come because Exuma wasn't fast enough to fix the tear, and he's a terrible admin who doesn't deserve the love and praise that he showered on him daily. The message is from Doc, and Exuma lets out a long sigh of relief, clicking on the chat. He immediately tenses up again when he reads the content. Doc M77. You still up? Exuma Void. I was just going to sleep. Doc M77. Liar. Doc M77. I can see your office light. It's still on. Exuma Void. Are you spying on me, Doc? Doc M77. I was just taking a stroll. You know how it is. When was the last time you slept? Exuma Void. Last night. Doc doesn't reply, and Exuma stares at the screen, determined to wait him out. His resolve crumbles by the second, and he finally winces and types out a reluctant confession. Exuma Void. It's been a while. Doc M77. How long of a while? Exuma Void. Since before the Watcher came onto the server. Doc M77. That's almost 3 days, X. Exuma Void. I've gone longer. I'll be fine. Doc M77. Go to sleep. Exuma Void. You know I can't. Doc M77. Exuma, go to sleep, or so help me I'll make you. Exuma Void. Are you threatening your admin? Doc M77. If that's what it takes to make you sleep, yes. Exuma Void. Then why don't you come in here and make me? Doc M77. Ha ha. Funny. Doc M77. Go to sleep, X. Doctor's orders. Exuma Void. You're insufferable. Doc M77. You know I'm right. Exuma Void. Fine, I'll go to sleep. Keep your fur down. Good night, Doc. Exuma flicks the chat away and turns back to the code, fully intending to ignore Doc's order and keep going with his work. He has gone longer without sleep before. 3 days is practically nothing. He knows he can keep going for at least another few days, and longer than that if he uses strength potions mixed with a little swiftness. Being admin of a server is a never-ending hurricane of stress, and that hurricane has practically doubled since the Watcher's arrival. Xuma's not about to lounge around while that thing's on the server. And while there's a gaping hole in his code that anyone could come through. The chat beeps again, and Xuma flicks back to it with a poorly disguised groan. Doc M77. I'm not leaving until that light goes out. Exuma Void. You have to be kidding. Doc M77. Nope. Doc M77. I've got blankets and enough wood for a fire. I can stay out here all night long. Exuma Void. You can't just trust that I'll go to sleep soon? Doc M77. Ha. No. Exuma Void. Are you actually going to stay out there for the entire night? Doc M77. Yep. I'm fine with staying up until morning, because I actually slept last night, unlike some people. Exuma Void. Doc. Doc M77. Exuma. Exuma Void. You're bluffing. Doc M77. Try me. Exuma lets out a sharp noise of frustration and pushes away from the desk. Tangling his fingers in his hair as the chair rolls away a few inches. Out of all the players to wander up to his base tonight, as the only one who can actually bully Exuma into submission and get away with it. He finally sighs and rolls back to the screen, poking out his reply with reluctant fingers and a displeased expression. Exuma Void. Fine, you win. But you better not camp out under my window all night, you hear? Last thing I need is for one of my players to be sleep deprived. Doc M77. Look who's talking. I didn't camp out. I won't camp out if you won't go back to work after I leave. Deal? Exuma Void. Deal. Doc M77. Lights out, X. Sleep well. Exuma turns all the screens off and reaches for the light switch, flicking it down with more force than strictly necessary. He sits in the dark of the room for several minutes, and he can just barely make out the sound of a rocket in the distance. Someone taking off with an elytra. Well played, Doc, he says to the dark room, and although he could totally just turn the light on and get back to work, he can feel the exhaustion weighing down on his limbs and mind, and he silently concedes that his friend possibly could be right. Anyways, Doc surely has a way to find out if X keeps their agreement. And Exuma doesn't really want to deal with a wrathful Doc. Sighing, Exuma stands from the chair and walks out of his office, traveling down to his bedroom and only bothering to take his boots off before collapsing into bed. He's asleep before his head hits the pillow. And that is the end of Chapter 4.